She smiled at me like she remembered something worth keeping. Not the polite customer service smile, not the rehearsed one people wear when they want a tip. This one landed softer, familiar, like a bookmark slipped quietly back into a page I didn't know I'd marked. "Hey," she said, stepping closer. "You remember me? I was your waitress a couple of days ago. This is my other job." The mall noise blurred. Shoes scraping tile, a kid crying somewhere behind us. I looked at her name tag, then her face, and it clicked. Same eyes, same voice, different uniform. I said her name without thinking. She lit up. That tiny reaction, that flash of being seen, hit harder than it should have. For half a second, the world felt clean. Then, my sister laughed. Not loud, not cruel enough to call out, just enough edge to tilt the moment sideways. "That's weird," she said, leaning in. "Maybe she's a lesbian. She seemed to like you. She couldn't stop smiling." The word hung there, greasy and unnecessary, like someone had dragged mud across a white floor just to see the contrast. I didn't say anything right away. I watched the waitress's smile falter, just slightly, as if she'd sensed the shift without hearing the words. I felt something in my chest tighten. Not anger, not embarrassment, something colder. The realization that the moment hadn't ended on its own. Someone else had ended it for me. You tell yourself it's nothing, a throwaway comment. You say calmly that maybe she was just being nice, that people can smile without wanting something, that you could use new friends. Your voice sounds reasonable, adult, controlled. Inside, you're recalculating. Because this isn't about sexuality. It never was. It's about how quickly someone else can grab a neutral experience and twist it into something ugly. How fast warmth becomes suspicious. How easily kindness gets sexualized when it wasn't earned or understood. And here's the part that doesn't feel good to admit. The comment didn't hurt because it was offensive. It hurt because it tried to overwrite your perception. It tried to tell you what that moment meant. And if you're not careful, you let it. You walk away, but the scene doesn't end. It follows you. You replay it while driving, while brushing your teeth. You wonder if you missed something, if you were naive, if your sister saw something you didn't. That's how projection works. It doesn't demand agreement. It just plants doubt and waits. Later that night, you remember the restaurant, the way the waitress had asked about your order. She actually cared if it was right. The way she'd laughed when you made a stupid comment about the menu. The way she'd remembered your name. Nothing charged, nothing suggestive, just human attention, freely given. That's what made it dangerous. People who don't receive warmth easily don't trust it when they see it. They assume there's a motive because they've learned kindness always comes with a price. So when they witness it happening naturally, they feel exposed. And exposure makes people mean. Your sister didn't read the waitress. She revealed herself. But you don't say that. You don't need to, because power doesn't rush to correct. Power watches. You start noticing patterns you used to ignore. How often neutral moments around you get reframed into problems. How quickly someone else's discomfort becomes the lens everyone is expected to adopt. How often you're subtly nudged to feel awkward about things that felt fine 5 seconds earlier. There's a scene you remember from childhood. Not dramatic, not violent, just telling. You're excited about something small, something that made you feel noticed. You share it. Someone close to you laughs, minimizes it, twists it into a joke. The excitement drains. You learn quietly that sharing joy invites commentary, that being seen invites correction. So you adapt. You become selective. You stop narrating your life in real time. You learn to enjoy moments privately where no one can reframe them for you. At the mall, you feel that old reflex kick in, the urge to explain, to clarify, to soften, to make sure no one thinks the wrong thing. That's the real threat. Not the comment itself, but the way it tempts you to abandon your own frame to maintain harmony. You don't. This time, you don't. You let the silence stretch just long enough to be uncomfortable. Not aggressive, just present. And in that pause, something shifts. Your sister looks away first. The subject changes. The moment passes. But the hierarchy doesn't reset the way it used to. Later, alone, you sit with the discomfort instead of burying it. You ask yourself a different question than you normally would. Not, what should I have said, but why did that bother me? The answer isn't flattering, but it's useful because you realize you trusted too easily. Not the waitress, but the people around you to handle your experiences with care. You assumed they'd let moments stay clean. You assumed wrong. That's the first mistake. Trusting people with access to your inner world before they've proven how they interpret it. Trusting that closeness equals safety. Trusting that shared blood or history means shared respect. It doesn't. And once you see that, you stop preparing comebacks. You stop rehearsing defenses. You stop trying to be understood by people who listen through distortion. You start protecting the meaning of your experiences the same way you protect your time. Quietly, selectively. Because the next time someone smiles at you, remembers you, or treats you with warmth, you won't let someone else decide what that means. You start to see how often this has happened without you naming it. Moments that should have stayed light get weighed down by someone else's interpretation. Small wins get minimized. Neutral interactions get turned into questions you never asked. It's subtle enough to slip past your defenses, but constant enough to shape how you move. You remember other scenes, standing in a line, laughing with a stranger, and feeling someone beside you stiffen. Sharing a story and watching it get reframed into something awkward. Each time, the pattern is the same. Someone feels excluded from the moment, so they take control of it by redefining it. They can't step into the warmth, so they cool it down. That's when it hits you. This isn't about what you should say next time, it's about who gets to own your experiences. Most people think power looks like dominance, raised voices, sharp words, perfect comebacks. But real power is quieter. It's the ability to let something exist without defending it, to trust your own read of reality more than anyone else's commentary. At the mall, you didn't lose the moment when your sister spoke. You only would have lost it if you had agreed with her framing, if you had laughed it off in a way that shrank you, if you had rushed to explain yourself so she could feel comfortable again. Instead, you stayed still. That stillness is unfamiliar if you've spent your life smoothing things over. It feels like doing nothing, but it isn't. It's restraint. It's choosing not to absorb someone else's discomfort. It's saying without words, I'm not carrying that. Later, you notice something else. When you stop explaining, people reveal more. Some double down, some get defensive, some suddenly accuse you of being sensitive or distant. Those reactions aren't random, they're feedback. They tell you who benefited from you constantly translating yourself into something easier to digest. You don't need to confront that either. You just log it. The waitress fades back into her day, probably unaware she was ever part of a bigger lesson. But the feeling she left doesn't. The reminder that being seen can be simple, that connection doesn't have to be heavy or justified, that not every interaction needs a label to be valid. You think about how quickly that kind of ease disappears when someone else gets involved, how fragile moments become when too many people are allowed to touch them. And you start to understand why some of the strongest people you know are also the most private. Not secretive, selective. They don't share everything because they don't need feedback on everything. They don't invite opinions into places where opinions don't belong. They let moments land, pass, and live where they happened. That's the adjustment you make going forward. You don't harden, you don't close off, you just stop outsourcing meaning. When someone makes a comment designed to reframe your reality, you don't argue with it. You don't accept it either. You let it fall flat. And in doing so, you keep your internal posture intact. Trust changes shape after that. It becomes slower, more deliberate. You stop assuming closeness equals care. You watch how people handle small, harmless things before you hand them anything heavier. You pay attention to whether they let moments breathe or immediately rush to control them. And that awareness sharpens you. You don't walk around suspicious, you walk around grounded. You know what you felt, you know what you saw, and you don't need consensus to validate it. That's the correction most people never make. They keep trusting access instead of interpretation. They keep letting the loudest voice decide what a moment meant. And over time, they lose touch with their own instincts. You don't. The next time someone smiles at you, remembers you, or treats you with warmth, you take it at face value. You let it be light. You let it be human. And if someone nearby tries to drag it into something ugly, you don't follow. Because the mistake was never enjoying the moment. The mistake was letting someone else rewrite it. You notice how calm everything feels once you stop trying to manage other people's reactions. The noise fades, the second guessing fades. You're no longer replaying scenes